A very good morning I bid to Dr. Azmil and my fellow friends. Today our group, which consists of Aini Fahana binti Shamsuddin, 1 Nur Soleha binti 1 Sharima Azman, 2 Suan Ping, Nur Atika binti Abdullah, and Muhammad Firdaus bin Noor, will be presenting religion in democracy, pros and cons. Let's get the ball rolling.
Religion definition is the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially in a god. Democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of a state, typically through elected representative. According to Twin Tolerations, written by Alfred Stephen, means that there is a clear distinction and a mutual respect between political authorities and religious leaders and body. Next, we move to the background. There is two kinds of questions that we can ask ourselves, which is, the first is, what are the minimal core institutional and political requirements for democracy? And second one is, how have a set of long-standing democracies, the European Union countries, actually met these minimal boundaries, requirement, and what maps of misreading can extracted from this experience. According to Dow 8 conditions, core requirements for democracy are: the first one is freedom to form and join organizations. Second one is freedom of expression. Third, the right to vote. Fourth, eligibility for public office. Fifth, the right of political leaders to compete for support and votes. 6. Alternative sources of information. 7. Free and fair elections. And last but not least, 8. Institutions for making government policies depend on vote and other expression of preference. Actually, they are insufficient because no matter how free and fair the elections and no matter how large the government majority, democracy must also have a constitution that itself democratic in that it respects fundamental liberties and offers considerable protection for minority rights. For second question, education in the Netherlands, Austria, and Germany, there exists extensive state support for private religious education. Meanwhile, for political parties, Christian democratic parties have frequently ruled in Germany, Austria, Italy, Belgium, and Netherlands. The only European Union member whose constitution explicitly prohibits political party from using religious symbols is surprisingly Portugal. So we can see between religious using education as a tools and a political party is divided in two situations.
Democracy not only refers to the framework to federal constitution, but also accepted in the state constitution. Thus, in debating the concept of democracy, we must harmonize it with religious values that also find a place in the legal framework of the country, as well as democracy itself. Harmonization between the two is the best way so that it is not neglected. Its harmonization is also important so that we benefit by praising religion. In the current reality, it is about human quality and humanity. The late Muhammad Uthman al-Muhammadi once stated that elements of practice in democracy, with some adjustment, can be reconciled with the teachings of Islam as found in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, which is the mainstream of Islam in making collective life successful in a country. So, to accept and praise the democratic system, religious principles must also be strengthened. The two need to be balanced so that democracy, which is the goal, also wants to take care of society collectively. We must not cause damage to existing systems. Therefore, what is in our democratic system needs to be aligned with the values and principles that instill and reconcile society collectively without abandon religious and practices and positions related to divinity, morality, and morals.
Next, our argument is about tolerance and unity between religion and government in a democratic country. we use Indonesia as our example. Indonesia is a neutral religion country that promotes tolerance and religious pluralism. There is a law that is called as blasphemy law, which prohibited blasphemy for the 6 official religions, which are Islam, Catholicism, Protestantism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. And any organization that under this blasphemy law did not need to obtain legal charter from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Nevertheless, for any religious organization that is considered as the minority and not official, they need to obtain legal charter as a civil society organization. There are a few requirements that they must have, such as they must uphold the ideology of Pancasila, they must not contradict the constitution, they must have the specific purpose, and also a non-profit organization and as independent organization. In Indonesia, students have the right to request for religion education in public school. And these requirements only in public schools. Based on the review of the book Islam and Democracy in Indonesia, Tolerance and Liberalism, the reviewers say that Muslim civil society embrace democracy in Indonesia, but it is not the liberal democracy. And as we know, when we talk about secular country, most of the scholars will say that secular country have better tolerance compared to the religious or neutral religious country. However, the tolerance in Indonesia is pretty different compared to the secular country. It is based on communal rights and not individual rights. The rights is basically based on the group, and it is due to the God nationalism and also communal tolerance in between the civil society.
As we know, democratic is always on the spectrum. Consolidation and regression can happen affected by some factors. In the explanation of this study case, we see the role of religion in consolidating democracy. In this case, religions bring democracy regression. Myanmar, one of the member states in ASEAN, tried to practice democratic system back to 2011. The military junta gave up some powers and leading to the creation of semi-democracy system. It is a good sign to continue consolidating the democracy in Myanmar. Unfortunately, the development of democracy in Myanmar went wrong, and military junta once again came in power through coup d'etat. Democratic regression in Myanmar can be seen from different dimensions, and one of these dimensions is from the angle of religious. In Myanmar, Association for Protection of Race and Religions, MAPATA, is one of the largest Buddhist nationalist organizations. It acts as a force to intervene democratic in Myanmar. Since the military junta giving way to the semi-democratic system, MAPATA joined the political scenes in Myanmar. For example, MAPATA urged the Myanmar citizens not to vote for National League for Democracy (NLD) in general election during 2020. Actually, this is not the first day of MAPATA trying to intervene the political scenes, but back to the old days, during general election in 2011, MAPATA openly urged the public not to choose National League for Democracy (NLD). In addition, since it is a Buddhist nationalist organization, we expect some positive values such as inclusive from this organization. But in contrast, we didn't find these positive values in MAPATA, but we see some negative values. For instance, MAPATA promotes the drafting and passage of 4 anti-Muslim laws on race and religious, including religious conversion law and monogamy law. These actions worsening the development of Myanmar, especially in human rights sector. MAPATA plays its role in political use of religion since general election in 2011 and 2015. It's always given clarified that choosing certain party and carry out certain action is good to the Buddhism and prevent the status quo of Buddhism take over or challenged by other religions. In the end, what we can see in this case happens in Myanmar. First and foremost, we can find that in this case, show religions not compatible with democracy. Mabata is using democracy to destroy democracy. It used the space, the sphere provided by democracy to destroy democracy. Its speech, actions, and movements is against democracy value. For example, violation of human rights happened in Mabata when it stands against the Muslim community in Myanmar, especially Rohingya in Rakhine State. Besides, it see that the Alfred Stephen's twin toleration not true at all time. In this case, religions being used to destroy democracy. So the development of democracy and religions become unstable. It used democracy to spread fake news and hate speech. For instance, elect NLD, National League for Democracy, in general elections will give negative impact to Buddhism and cause negative sequences to the country and to the people. And Islam will threaten the development of Buddhism in Myanmar and take over the Buddhism's status quo. Fake news and hate speech are also being spread by Mabata. So in the nutshell, we can conclude that in this study case, religions which represented by Mabata affect negatively the consolidating democracy in Myanmar. It contributes to the ideology of people and brainwash of the citizen and accept any forms of governance in terms of its benefits the Buddhism and not democracy. So in the end, the development of religions in Myanmar contributes to the democratic regression as Mabata, one of the religious association, play a role in political intervention.
I will continue the argument about religion and democracy. Okay, religion and democracy will give negative impact if we mix religion in politics, because it can create conflict between political parties of different belief if they are religious extremist politicians, and it also gives rise to communalism in the country. State power can be used to create dominance of one religious group over another religious group. This situation causes discrimination against minorities who do not support the party that won the election. For example, Muslims in India facing rising discrimination since the Bharatiya Party Janata, led by Modi, holds the government in 2014. Muslims, who make up more than 50% of India's 1.4 billion population, often complain of persecution in the Hindu majority country, and notes that the marginalization of the community has been increasingly prominent under the BJP, but the BJP and the government deny the accusations. That's why Muslims in India create an organization that's called Popular Front of India, PFI, to fight for Muslim people. An Islamic organization that says it fights discrimination against minorities in India has also disbanded after the government declared it and its affiliates unlawful, as accusing them of involvement in terrorism. The government of Narendra Modi Hindu Nationals Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) accused the Popular Front of India group of having been involved in terrorism and anti-national activities. That's why, if one religious group has continued to support the party in power even though the party has preached a kind of xenophobia and religious bigotry, then minority people will become more aggressive and there will be riots everywhere. That's why politicians should not discriminate people on behalf of religions. All the policies and rules regulations should be the same for all people. More broadly, religion becomes an important factor in nationalist sentiment and nation formation when it is able to play some sort of differentiating role for the nation. Conflict between secular and religious authorities or among religious communities both serve this role. Also, Antonio Marx reminded us that Carl Schmitt argued the political identities required enemies, and since religion is a powerful cleavage on which to build such enmities, religious conflict breaks political boundaries. Religious conflict has aided nation building elsewhere, such as in India. Nationalism has relied on religious hostilities between Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim.
In conclusion, from the secular point of view, religion is a hindrance to democracy as it enforces a set of legal and societal principles. Separation of religion and state is required to protect freedom and ensure equality. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
That's all from our group. Thank you.